And the ones I'm most pleased with are the definitions series, because they really are nothing. The definitions usually come out when I'm frustrated with something else that's much longer and taking much more effort. They're just sentences or notions that occur off the cuff that I will write out almost without thinking about them. And then I cobble the videos together around them and throw them out there and see if they work, and people just seem to like them, which I'm very pleased about. They're sort of almost like unconscious philosophy. It is incredibly gratifying. I'm very, very pleased with all of the definitions. The only one that was more conscious than that was the VoteBot one, the definition of irony. But even that just came out as a matter of frustration because I was annoyed with the VoteBot nonsense. It was just like, right, I need some way of expressing this because it's getting on my tits. And I find that happens quite a lot, both with the poetry and the fiction. I mean, I remember an encounter I had a while ago now. I think it was about a year ago now. I'm a carer for the mentally disabled professionally, and I remember an encounter I had with this complete arse on the bus when I was taking the guy I look after out for the day. And I don't know why, he was just one of these people who just exploded for some reason with vitriol at this guy I look after. He just started swearing at him for no reason. And when I confronted him about it and explained that I was a carer for the mentally disabled, he became all apologetic. He said, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and whatnot. You know, I didn't want his apologies at that point because it's a ridiculous way to act in the first place. His apologies meant nothing to me, and that really got to me. So I wrote a short story about it when I got home because I needed to get it out. Otherwise it would fester. I knew it would fester, so I needed to get that out. And so I wrote this short story in which I tried to get into the mindset of the guy himself to try and figure out what kind of frustrated state you must exist in to just simply blow up at someone for no reason whatsoever, just from random person like that. And that helped a great deal. I felt very good. It's like therapy after I'd written that. So yeah, there doesn't tend to be any particular method. It's just sit down at the keyboard and see what happens, and sometimes it won't. Poetry I find much more difficult than writing fiction, simply because I've been doing fiction for so long that I can automatically put my mind into the particular state to write it. I can't always do that with poetry. There has to be a sort of alignment of the stars, if you like. The conditions have to be just so. And I also need that initial, that something, that inclination in my mind. But I'm endeavouring to do about one a week at the moment, at least one poem a week, and I'm working on several at the minute, because that's another. I'm a terrible writer sometimes. It's one of my biggest failings. I will stop writing something and start writing something else because I've got that initially. I get the idea and I get the enthusiasm in my head, so I'll go and write something else. I mean, the fiction I'm working on at the moment, there are about 10 short stories all going on at once, which is just abysmal. I need to sit down and finish the ones that I started earlier, and then finish the rest, and then do just a couple at a time. I need to get out of that habit. It's awful. Tatimus also asks, if you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be and why? That's a good one as well. There are a number of places that I've visited that I'd like to live. I think I'd like to live in Cyprus. Cyprus I'd like to live simply because it's such a sedate, beautiful island. And there is this ethos of friendliness amongst the local people that's so genuine and so overwhelmingly hospitable. In fact, it's one of the very few places in the world I visited where I'd like to live other than Britain. I do like this island a lot in terms of its climate and whatnot. I mean, I'm pretty acclimatized to Britain. I like the cold and the greyness and the damp. I'm very fond of that, and I'm not fond of heat. I'd also like to live in Florence. simply for the culture of the place. I would like to see things like the Duomo and the Capponi Library and the beautiful architecture. I'm also a Dante fan. I love Dante Alighieri's poetry. In particular, I love the Inferno. I like all of the Divine Comedy, but the Inferno is my favourite simply because of its wit. And to be in the heartland where that was produced would be just amazing. I like the poetic tradition from that part of the world. It would also be a good excuse to learn Italian, which I want to do at some point. As for other places I'd like to live, there are places in Scotland that I've seen where I would dearly love to live, because I've got this thing about desolations. I love wide open emptiness where there is no sign of human civilization or even habitation, where there's nothing. And I've been through some places in Scotland where there is literally just these vast expanses of black broken rock, mountains, waterfalls, etc., etc., and the road just winds through them. There's nothing there, and I love that. I absolutely love it. So somewhere to that effect. I mean, one of my relatives actually owns a farm up in Scotland, and it is in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, their nearest neighbour's like 5 miles away, and the nearest town is 10 miles, and it's not even a town, it's just like a street. I would dearly love to live somewhere like that. I like the isolation. 3. Do you have any tattoos, and if so, what? I don't have any tattoos, but I'd like some. I was considering not too long ago getting a tattoo down my left arm of one of the Songs of Innocence, and down my right of one of the Songs of Experience. The Songs of Innocence and Experience are poems by William Blake, my favourite romantic poet. In fact, what I've been considering doing is getting bits and pieces of poetry tattooed on my body. Extracts from the Divine Comedy, from Milton, from Blake's poetry, from Lawrence Ferlinghetti, Allen Ginsberg, some of the beat poets, and maybe some Philip Larkin, that kind of thing. I would love it. I would love to have my body be a tapestry of poetry. That would be absolutely wonderful. Maybe some Oscar Wilde epigrams as well. My brother's got loads. My brother's a bit of a tattoo enthusiast. And they really are good as well. They're fantastic looking things. Question 4. Out of all the TF comics, what line is your favourite and why? It's a toss-up, either between the Dreamwave continuities, The War Within and Generation 1, or the IDW comics. I love the Dreamwave comics for their ambition and for the way that they took the Transformers. Insofar as I'm concerned, despite the fact that it ended so abruptly because of Dreamwave's collapse, the Dreamwave continuities are the definitive Generation 1 continuities. I love the way they try to establish a very elaborate timeline, right from the very beginning of the war on Cybertron, right until the current day. And I also like the way that they try to answer some of the imponderables about the Transformers universe. Why do they transform into vehicles for smaller life forms, and why do certain Transformers seem to shrink down when they transform or grow, and that sort of thing. I think they did a really sterling job in trying to answer some of those. And the way they expanded the mythology was amazing. The way the portrayal of the characters is stunning, and the way they've actually synthesized their core elements from all previous continuities and created what is utterly essential to them. I was particularly fond of the portrayals of Megatron, Shockwave and Starscream. I thought the way they were portrayed was fantastic. I liked in particular Megatron's Machiavellian quality, the way he seemed to know the war that he initiated was just a front for a wider ambition, the full details of which we never quite learned. I like the fact that he knew more about Cybertron and about the origins of the Transformers than anyone else, and seemed to be working towards some ineffable goal. And I love Starscream's sadomasochism as well. I think that's a brilliant aspect of the character to bring out. And I was also very, very fond of the fact that this portrayal of the Transformers war was genuinely grim. It wasn't like the any previous continuity which of course catered almost exclusively towards children, so was therefore to a certain degree diluted. This was aimed at the established fan base, whom of course by this point were mostly adults anyway. So in this war you have genuine ambiguity, and you have casualties as well. Characters died, including human beings. And I think the IDW continuity is doing a really good job of taking it in a similar direction. It's very different from Dreamwave, of course, and it has something of a different ambition as well. It's not interested in referencing all of the previous continuities that have gone before, although it is doing a fairly good job of that thus far. Rather, it's interested in rewriting the Transformers universe and bringing out aspects of the characters and of the mythology that have perhaps never been considered before.